The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Hello there. Obi-Wan Kenobi here, also known as James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan,
Jedi Master Plo Koon,
and many other characters in the world of Star Wars. You're listening to... Shh, don't tell. It's The Secrets of Star Wars. May the Force be with you.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, episode 153.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hi, I'm Robert King, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away. From movies to books to TV shows and more, we're looking at the deeper themes and meanings found in Star Wars. Today we're discussing The Mandalorian, Chapter 19, The Convert. Joining me today on the panel are Kathryn Laffrey.
Hello.
And Jason Eugea.
Thanks for having me.
And Jon Koral.
Hello.
It's good to have you all here. Once again, this was an episode that kind of surprised me at almost every turn. It starts off where the last episode left off, with Din and Bo-Katan at the steps of the living waters under the mines of Mandalore. Din, who nearly drowned, wakes up and collects a vial of the water. Bo-Katan asks if he saw anything down there, but he didn't, and she doesn't mention seeing the mythosaur herself. Then they head back to Bo-Katan's castle on Kalevala, just to head their separate ways, but they're attacked en route by some TIE interceptors, and while they're fighting the fighters, a set of bombers come and destroy Bo-Katan's castle. Then more TIEs come to finish them off, and so Din and Bo-Katan, they just punch it out of there. At that point, we cut to Coruscant, where we find Dr. Pershing. Remember Dr. Pershing? He was the geneticist who was running the experiments on Grogu. So now he's on Coruscant, giving public testimony that he's changed his ways and just wants to help the New Republic. He lives in an amnesty village along with other reformed Imperials, including an officer from Moff Gideon's ship, now identified as G-68, but we later learn her name is Elia Kane. She convinces Pershing that continuing his research will actually help the New Republic, even though the New Republic told him, nope, don't do it. So she says maybe they could go steal some equipment from a decommissioned Star Destroyer, and he can continue his experiments on the sly. After they do this, with a lot of excitement on the way, they get past every obstacle and escape every trap until the end, when they're caught, and Kane reveals that she's been setting him up all along. So Pershing is sent back to reintegration, where he is subjected to a mind flare. I mean a 602 mitigator, which at low voltages can soothe selected traumatic memories. Then everyone leaves Kane alone with Pershing, and she cranks that 602 mitigator up to 11. After all that, we switch back to Din and Bo-Katan as they arrive at the covert of the watch that raised Din. Din brings proof that he is bathed in the living waters and has been redeemed. And the armorer declares that Bo-Katan has been redeemed as well, and welcomes her as one of them. So now Din and Bo-Katan are home, in a way. I think that sums up this episode. Did I miss anything important?
I think you got it.
There's a lot going on in this episode. And part of what makes it complex is that we don't get a lot of episodes that are structured like this, with kind of a part one that was focused on the Mandalorian that we expected. And then most of the episode, I calculated it out, 36 minutes of this episode were on the Pershing story without a break, without intercutting back and forth. And then it got back to Din Djarin at the end. And what did you think about that choice to split up the story that way? What worked for you and what didn't?
It threw me off a little at first because it felt like we were going to get like the continuation of everything that happened with Bo and Din. And then all of a sudden it's like they take off and I'm like, why are we at Coruscant? It just like, I was like, wait, what's going on? It just was like such a jarring change that it really did catch my attention. But at the same time, it made the whole rest of the episode feel unsettled, which I think might have been the reason why they did it that way.
Oh, that's an interesting
I was just
thought.
waiting for the other shoe to drop the whole time.
So there wasn't a point where you kind of settled in and said, oh, okay, this is what we're doing now.
No, I always was like, what's going to happen? It just felt like something bad was going to happen the whole time.
I wonder if it was like a time lapse, like maybe where the covert is. I don't know. Did they ever say what planet they're on? The covert?
I don't think so.
But it seems like maybe they did that as, because we were on Coruscant for a couple days, I think, at least, because they set up all the different, okay, I'll meet you tomorrow night and we'll go do this thing, and you see him at work a couple times, so it's got to be 3 or 4 days probably. Is it possible that that's how long it took them to jump from Mandalore or Kalevala to wherever they were going at the covert?
Maybe, but I kind of took it as the whole Coruscant took place over a matter of weeks or even months. I mean, Pershing had 2 different interviews with that sort of rehabilitation robot. And I have trouble getting like 2 appointments with my therapist in a month. So like, I'm thinking, those wouldn't be like on the same day or, even on 2 consecutive days. I thought there would be like a week between them at least.
Well,
maybe a month.
It wouldn't take that long for them to go anywhere through the galaxy, or we would never see anything happen.
Well, when I was watching it, I saw, the first part was so exciting, and then it felt like we moved into Andor and Cyril working at his desk for a while.
Yeah.
And stuff. And then it was, and it really slowed down the pace. But like Kathryn was saying, I was also pretty unsettled because every time, it's like he opens the door and it's like, oh, where's that person? It's like, and then you're thinking, are they really friends? It was like the whole time, that was the thing. It was like, as I was going through it, it was like a tension there that it's like, are they really a team, or I didn't know if she was setting him up or what, but it was just like, you just felt like there was the fact that we were focusing on the guy the whole time, and, you could see how he changed over time. It was, you were thinking, okay, something's going to happen to him, whether it was what did happen in the show, or, is he going to get caught up with the Empire again, doing this stuff, or is he, whatever. But that was, so it was pretty jarring where, things were exciting, then it was dull, then it built up to exciting, and then you're back to the covert, and so.
Yeah. It was interesting. My first reaction, because it, Din and Bo-Katan are running away from the TIE fighters, the TIE interceptors, and she says, where are you taking me? And he says, someplace that they won't find us. And then it cuts to the title card. And then from there, it cuts to Coruscant. And so I was like, he's taking them to Coruscant?
Well,
and it took me a minute to figure, oh no, we're somewhere else completely. A different storyline. Yeah.
Well, what threw me for a loop too, though, it's like before I hit play on it, they'll have that little line on the screen about the story, and it said something along the lines of, and then on Coruscant, Imperials have a chance for rehabilitation or something like that. But
right.
then the picture on the screen was out of Bo-Katan, so I was like, okay, so that made me think, are they going to Coruscant too? But it was also the idea, though, it's like the storyline did not match the picture they put up with that episode, and so that kind of threw. So I knew that I had a feeling they were going to Coruscant because of what the storyline said, but then it was like, why, do they need to spend so much time there? It was.
Yeah. Well, because the episode really did seem like two separate storylines, like two really distinct storylines. I thought maybe we would take them one at a time and we're already kind of talking about the Pershing storyline, so let's stick with that. I thought it was fascinating how they set up Pershing as this very sympathetic character. Like, they bring you into his point of view and they kind of show what he's struggling with a lot. Did that work for you? Do you buy his line that he always had good intentions and he just wanted to help people, and now he wants to do that helping the New Republic? And you think he's really reformed?
No, I didn't buy it.
No?
No, he's just his mannerisms, his nervousness, the way he was talking, his grabbing his ear, remembering having the shot go past his face there. Yeah, he seemed unsettled enough that I was like, anytime I saw him, felt totally unsettled, going, what is going on here? This isn't right. He seemed like total fish out of water. Every time they showed him going through the city, he looked like, oh my gosh, he'd never seen anything like this. And, deer in headlights half the time. It just, he seemed so nervous about everything. And then when he was thrown off seeing, was it Elia? Yeah, that just, you could see him just like shaken to the core. What is she doing here? And, I don't know. I didn't buy his story about his mother either, as much as he tried to pull it off, because of what he said in the little hollow they had of him in season 2 about wanting more samples of Grogu and, this one failed. We'll have to, we might lose another subject if we try this again, but I need more blood. I mean, he just didn't seem like it was a big deal if whoever he was experimenting on died. So he didn't, I don't know. I just didn't see he seemed like science is all he wanted, and there wasn't much moral founding behind it.
Well, he did say in his speech, it was something to the effect of, like, pursuing knowledge is the most noble thing a person can do, or something like that. That was, I thought that was a pretty, I think I believed him on that line at least. I think my experience was that I did kind of buy that his intentions were good, but he doesn't know where to land in terms of loyalties.
Speaking of his speech at the what is it, the ballroom or whatever that thing is, if did you guys notice that's the same place where Palpatine had his talk with Anakin in Revenge of the Sith?
I did not.
It's the same, what they called it, the Opera House or whatever. It's the same place.
Okay.
So I thought that was really interesting, a callback to Revenge of the Sith, and how Anakin is drawn to the dark side, through subtly, And so I thought that was an interesting tie. But what was the purpose of that speech if they weren't going to let him continue that mission? Why have him get in front of all of those people and tell them all the stuff that he was working on, just to say, well, you can't do that no more? That doesn't seem logical to me. There's got to be a reason that they did that.
And it didn't seem like he told them everything. You know, it's like he kind of like grazed on it, like, oh, we're bringing these two gene sequences together from two different sources. But he didn't say that. He was like, well, we're trying to steal midichlorians from this one super powerful small little being so that we can resuscitate someone.
Well, see, and that's what I was kind of wondering a little bit, because when he was talking about the pursuit of knowledge and stuff, it ended somewhere by saying, how it got twisted and stuff. But he said, by a desperate individual who wanted to use cloning to secure more power for himself. And I was wondering, is that Moff Gideon who wanted to secure that power, or was he doing it knowing that it was maybe for Palpatine? It was kind of, and that's kind of, and then the fact that he said they were using two people, versus just the initial to build strength into it. I was thinking maybe more Palpatine, because that's why you'd want the midichlorians from someone like Grogu. Or,
it could be, Moff Gideon's delusion that if he helps Palpatine, that Palpatine's gonna, loft him to this great high power or whatever. But we all know what Palpatine's gonna do. But Moff Gideon probably is like, oh, he's gonna take care of me.
Did anyone else get Hunger Game vibes off of that? It felt like, I just rewatched it
what
too
part
with
of the
my
Hunger
daughter.
Games?
Where they have the contestants on stage and talking about themselves to try to get supporters. And that's all I kept feeling. And then, of course, he walks out into the hallway and you get all the fakeness from all the people around him. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this Capital District of Hunger Games? I was like, really? This is supposed to be the New Republic.
I did get a little bit of that with those people talking to him. They all just seem so fake, and, man, they creep me out.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely the creepiness of like the one guy who was like, oh, I almost got recruited once. Can you imagine me? And it's like, oh dear, that was the Empire. That's totally different. It's like, oh, I never pay attention to any of that stuff.
As long as he gets to live his, fat, dumb, happy life, because he's probably the son of a senator's son.
That's the part that I can definitely see the Hunger Games vibes there, but that also gave me sort of Andor vibes myself.
Yeah, because Mon Mothma's husband and daughter and stuff are all, and all that crowd, a lot of that crowd are caught up in the superficial side of things.
Yep.
And not the deeper moral reason why you're doing things or why you're in those positions.
It's funny because this was yet again another break for me from the Star Wars storyline that I fell in love with. So it's like it's hard for me to let go of what's now Legends, because for me, back in the early 90s, I was newly married, I was becoming a mom, and I'm reading Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire, where my favorite couple is just getting ready to have their first kids. You got Han and Leia, and it was just it was fun and relatable for me, and especially for me and my husband, because we always use the line, I know. That's So it was for me, it's okay, this was a great storyline, strong couples, we're building a new republic, everything is working toward a greater good. And now all of a sudden, everything is just dismal. And I'm like, why is it like that now? What's different? And then I stopped to think about the timeline in reality for us. Timothy Zahn wrote that right after the Gulf War happened. We needed new hope. We needed something good to look forward to. It felt like there was a revival of this is what we stand for. this is what we could do with a good, work together kind of feel in life and politics and business kind of thing. And then now everything just feels cynical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was hard for me to see the New Republic the way they displayed it. And all I kept thinking was, this is not Leia and Mon Mothma's New Republic.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't mentioned at all. And this would be the time period where they would be very active, right? You would think, anyway.
The only thing they mentioned from that was the hollow zoo of extinct animals or whatever it was.
Oh,
that was in one of the sets of books, and I just laughed when I heard it. My husband's like, "What's so funny?" I go, "That's one of my favorite scenes. That's where Han and Leia's twins totally ditched C-3PO and Chewie and got lost in the lower regions of Coruscant." And I'm just like, that was such a funny moment. And I'll hear him like, "Oh," and it's just kind of a afterthought, and everything I loved is Legends.
Well, could they be showing the decline of the New Republic this soon to set up how they got to the First Order?
This is literally 20 years before the sequel movies.
Yeah.
So it's like, and it's only 5 years after the fall of the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But it could have started
years.
Going downhill that soon. Possibly. Maybe not where Mon Mothma and Leia are doing their thing, but because I don't think Coruscant was the seat of the New Republic, was it?
Originally, yes, it was. It was, and Leia was doing all kinds of refugee centers. She set up a whole Alderaan refugee center, and they had purposely brought back plants and things.
Are you talking about from Legends or because I know there have been some
so
new books that talk about the Leia specifically in the early days of the New Republic, but I have to admit I haven't read them. Have any of you guys?
The only new canon books I've read are the Thrawn series setting up Rebels.
Yeah. So dang, I think we should have done our homework more. But who knew that this was going to be like, such a Coruscant-centric show. I agree, though. It struck me as odd and to have like this undermining of like the moral idealism of the New Republic so quickly. And I mean, like in the Outer Room, we see how, the New Republic is dealing with, the planets, and, they've got marshals in some places and they're, they've got kind of a light touch here and there. But here at the core at Coruscant was the center of the old Republic, center of the Empire. It makes sense that the New Republic would at least start with its center there. And yet the idealism is, it seems just as corrupt as either the old Republic was or the Empire is shown to be in Andor. And I don't know. What do you think about that? Are they just trying to say they're...
I wonder if
are they undermining the whole idea of that there is a good idealism to be found anywhere?
I think I saw it more as just the difficulty of how to build a new republic, in a sense. It's like you've already, you had the Empire, you win the war, but, the guy's talking about, well, we got to decommission the Imperial vessels. We got to decommission the Alliance stuff. And, Dr. Pershing is, saying, hey, this is really good equipment and stuff. Mm-hmm. Why are we getting rid of it? And it's like, look, it's all Imperial. We just want to, it's kind of like we want to turn our back from the Imperial side and move on. But there's so much work that goes into it. It's not just like you flip, snap your fingers and all of a sudden, hey, we got this whole new government. Everything's hunky dory and, we're going perfect. I think by showing, those, how many people are in that amnesty program, because that was something they mentioned, that maybe there is something where, the former Imperials are taking advantage of this transition, and this maybe is the long run how we're going to see how the First Order does come about. It's like, okay, they do take advantage of these simple questions of the droids and say, yeah, if I just answer yes, no, whatever, each time, then I just pass, and they don't really care if, what I'm doing, and then we can work and, to undermine things and stuff. I don't know. I just think, I do think, a lot of the, side of that we see with Coruscant is superficial, but I'm just wondering if they're trying to show us the difficulty of, trying to transition, and then, like I said, how the New Order would come, or the First Order would come about, over time. Because, when we first saw the Force Awakens, it's like, how could the First Order have so much going out there? It's like, didn't we just get rid of all this? So
yeah,
I don't know. That was kind of my thought on it.
What do you think specifically of their reintegration and amnesty program? I mean, like the idea that they're basically using the same mind flayer technology. And I'm like, this is pretty sketchy, just morally speaking, and yet I like the calamari doctor who is there. He seemed like maybe he was brainwashed, but maybe he really believed that it was a good treatment. And the other officer who was in the control booth, he, you don't know much about him, but he didn't seem like a mustache twirly villain to me. He seemed like he really believed this was doing something good. And then Elia Kane at the end, she's the one, after everyone else has left her alone, she's the one who cranks it up to dangerous levels, which leads me to think that that's not normal for this reintegration program.
There is so much in the reintegration program that just seemed really odd. First of all, why would they be giving them numbers only? It made no sense to me whatsoever. And then the fact that the people in the program were only going by their numbers. So it's either shaming or embarrassment at who they were. But then I started looking back at Rebels, and there were times where people flipped from the Empire to the Rebels. No problem. Once you get going in it, it's like, okay, we can do this. And so this just seems strange to me. Like, why is this weird protocol in place now? I know it just doesn't click. But there's like such a change from what we saw in the Rebel Alliance in 4, 5, and 6, and then the show Rebels, to all of a sudden being, so super distrusting that you get a number. I don't know.
Well, I see a huge parallel to what's happening concurrently in the Bad Batch right now. The Bad Batch, the clones are, you can't even call them secondhand citizens. They're not citizens.
Right.
They don't even, they're the one a couple episodes ago, you referred to him as used equipment. So it almost seems like the New Republic is treating the stormtroopers maybe half a step better than that. Saying, you can incorporate into the New Republic and we can put you to work and do all these things for us, but we're still not going to give you a name. You were a stormtrooper TK-142 before, now you're G68 or whatever your number is, right? It's very dehumanizing, I think.
Yeah,
and
it
I
is.
think
That's why it just seems so out of character.
Yeah, the rebellion was all about trying to fix what the Empire was doing, And now they're doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, almost explicitly the same thing as you were saying, you know, replacing names with numbers and like just treating people like equipment, like cogs in a machine. So I wonder if part of the goal is to say, yeah, there really isn't a difference between Republic, Empire, Rebellion, any of these things, that they all kind of suffer from the same dehumanization.
Yeah, that's what the creepy guy at the ballroom was saying, was Empire, Rebellion, New Republic, it's all the same.
Yeah.
It kind of ties in a little bit to Pershing's obsession with science. I've got to fix everything with science. When there's, and in this too, there's no force. There's no something beyond themselves. So you get the dehumanizing relativism of, oh, whatever happens, happens, and I'll do it my way and you do it your way, and however it works out, it works out. It just is chaos. And I just felt like it was just a justification for, you know, all organized society is like Andor. You know, it just was dehumanizing and drudging, and you know, we've lost that we can actually like live for something beyond ourselves.
That idea that we're made for community, that we're made to be in relationship with other people. Yeah.
And even Dr. Pershing, as you said that, as I was looking here, you know, when they're walking, you know, or going to with their, was it fizzle sticks or whatever they were called, fizz pot or something.
Photon fizzes or something. Yeah,
fizzes. You know, one of the things
which are awesome. I mean, I want one, don't you? Yeah,
absolutely. The thing that was interesting was, as they're walking around and they're like 3 trillion or whatever, was it 1 trillion or 3 trillion people? And he says, all these people working together to make something better makes me feel rather insignificant. And then Elias says, you know, actually makes her feel special knowing everything I had to overcome to get back here, you know. But the thing that, you know, as you're saying this, it's like maybe because he's just one of a trillion people or whatever, and they're all working together, but maybe he feels insignificant because even if, you know, is it because he's not working together with people, or he wants to work on his own to feel the significance of, you know, I did this, I figured this out, versus let me work with a team and figure it out, you know, like work together? Or is he feeling, and that made him feel insignificant because he's not being called out by his being special as a doctor who knows this technology and stuff? Or I don't know.
Like he wants to touch the mountaintop.
Yeah.
You make a really good point there. Because neither of them, you know, they talk about 3 trillion or 1 trillion. I forget what it was either. But, you know, the trillion people working together to build something better. And then both of them talk about how they feel not connected. You know, I feel insignificant, like I'm not actually a part of a bigger purpose. And she feels special because she was able to scrape her own way back there to achieve something on her own, not necessarily to participate with whatever, you know, the making things better, whatever that may be. And yeah, that sense of being a part of, you know, I may be one individual in a very large galaxy, but I am a part of something bigger, and my contribution is significant, even if it is small. And that's just completely missing from either of their point of view.
They need a little Saint Therese in the little way.
Yeah.
I noticed something in their when they're on Coruscant and they're walking through that plaza.
Yeah.
If you notice, when she's talking about the biscuits back at their little picnic table, she mentions how she likes the red ones. And then if you notice when they're eating their glowy ice cream, she's eating a red one. And for those listeners that have never seen Sixth Sense, spoiler alert, but it's been 24 years. Every time there was a clue to somebody being something dealing with how the end of that movie was going to turn out, it was red. And of course we know the Sith have red lightsabers and stuff like that. But then also I saw foreshadowing in what she did to him when she tells him to go touch the mountain. She knows he's going to get in trouble, minor trouble, but she's basically showing her hand. This is what I'm doing to you. And then later in the episode, she does it on a much grander scale to where he's now in big trouble, but she's already showed him her hand. I thought that was really interesting. Of course, I had to watch it again to see that. I didn't pick up on that first, but I did later.
It's I agree. It gives a sense that she really is a consistent kind of character. She's always pushing him beyond where he's comfortable going. And she's doing that not for his own good, but for some agenda that she has. And I'm not sure what that agenda is. At first I thought she was an agent of the reintegration program, that they were like trying to like setting Pershing up to fail. But obviously, or obvious to me at least, maybe I'm wrong, the fact that she cranked it up to 11 at the end, that tells me she's maybe working for somebody else, and I'm not sure what's going on with that.
When the second time I watched it, I paid more attention to the conversation the officers had when Pershing goes to goes to the Amnesty House, and they're having drinks and
sure.
And what was interesting was, and this is, I think she is working for someone, because they said, "Oh, you're on Moff Gideon's ship. I didn't know you were there," and blah blah blah. And then the guy said, "Didn't Moff Gideon escape when they were sending him to that war tribunal?" And then the next guy says, "No, that was just the cover story. They'd used the mind flayer on him and stuff." But when you look at what Dr. Pershing did at the end of season 2, and I'm thinking, the fact that she was related to Moff Gideon, and there's questions: is he out there or not? Whether it's Moff Gideon or someone kind of related to him, it was pure revenge. She set him up, and then it's like she was taking revenge on him at the end, by doing what she did. So I'm thinking there's sympathies towards Moff Gideon or something along those lines. And then by knowing how simple the questions are in there, maybe they were just funneling all these Imperials in. They're like, "Hey, reintegration's easy. All you have to do is ABC, and we can get things moving." And then a message comes from outside and says, "Hey, this guy's there. Take him out," or something. I don't know what happens to him. Does he just have no memory, or is, I don't know what the mind flayer does in the end exactly, but, at that level. But I'm thinking, because of that conversation that they had, that it's something along those lines where.
Yeah, she definitely seemed to be working for someone else. I mean, the whole time you feel like, oh gosh, she's setting him up. You could just see the way she's playing with him. It was like a cat and mouse kind of game. And then I went back and watched other scenes she was in other seasons. And to see the way she was talking to the space dock worker who planted the bug on the Razor Crest, where she was like, "Oh, you will be remembered well in like the new order or the new whatever." I was like, okay, she's definitely got bigger connections out there than just Moff Gideon. And to me, it felt like, when she did her little, Nurse Cratchit role there from Cuckoo's Nest on poor Doc Pershing, that she was covering up him because he knows too much. And she probably was afraid that he might tell the truth, that he might let the New Republic know what he was really working on.
So who's he working for? Who's she working for?
I feel like she's working for the Mountain that's working on bringing back the Palpatine. I feel like she's got a direct connection.
And that Mountain was introduced in the Thrawn novels. So I really do think we're going to see Thrawn at some point.
Well, we saw his favorite toy.
And
those
we saw the
interceptions. That's his pet project.
And the Purgil.
So it's all starting to come together. All of the different shows you think are kind of focusing on bringing us back to Palpatine, huh?
It feels like it. Like they're trying to integrate it all to make that connection that was missing for a lot of people with the sequels.
See, the part of me that loves huge epic storytelling loves that idea. And the part of me that really enjoyed like the different parts of the Star Wars universe that we saw in like season 1 of The Mandalorian is like, are we gonna lose everything to being just one story? Is the Star Wars only going to ever be about one story?
Well, we're Catholic. We're part of his story. There really is only one story.
Fair. So we've been talking about like the darkness and cynicism and dreariness of this Pershing storyline. The Din and Bo-Katan storyline strikes me as having like a real contrast to that. Like it starts with survival and moves to like an unexpected trust and acceptance. It's just growing from I trust you a little to I trust you more to I trust you more to I trust you completely. Welcome, you are one of us. And it's almost, I may be getting ahead of ourselves, but it almost strikes me as like the opposite story, like a complete contrast to what's going on with the Pershing story.
There's definitely a visual complete contrast. I mean, especially for, at least I feel that way. I go to cities and I get claustrophobic. I live close enough to Chicago to drive there for a day trip, but I hate being there because I don't like not being able to see for miles. Get me out in the country. And to me, visually, you go from Coruscant with all this stuff and everything flying and controlled traffic patterns to the wide open spaces that we saw in the Din and Bo-Katan storyline, where it's like you have the big flight sequences, which blew my mind. My husband and I love air shows. He's got his pilot's license, so it's just like, yes, best flight sequences since Top Gun. That's awesome.
There was some great dogfighting. I totally thought
Top Gun.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've had really good dogfighting in a Star Wars show, hasn't it?
And huge details on that. I mean, just everything from the winglets on Bo-Katan's ship, watching them flutter in the wind. It's like, oh, that's just like on a real plane when you get the little, flaps, and then, oh my gosh, the turn. Come on. That was just the sickest thing. I'm like, yes. I mean, that's like, talk about like just turn and burn and flip that thing over.
And did you notice
awesome.
everything in her, like R5 and started floating because she's doing that zero-G drop? Man, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Which, considering that there's artificial gravity on board that ship, is like, okay, but I suppose I shouldn't go to Star Wars for my physics realism, should I?
Well, I was going to say too, the vertical takeoff of the N1 was pretty impressive. And the thing, but what, and I don't think it was meant to be, but what it actually reminded me of though is when he goes shooting straight up and then stops and turns around. it reminded me of the original Batman movie with Michael Keaton when he's in the bat plane.
Yeah.
And he introduces, but there is no moon or anything behind him, but it's like that's the first bat signal when he stops right up at the moon and then comes flying down. I don't know if that was intended, but it was like, I don't know if the N1 looks like a mythosaur skeleton or something, but it was like, but it was just, he shot up, then, came flying down. And it's interesting, too, how they both kind of use the gravity as, I don't know, is that a Mandalorian thing when they fly to say, here's how you use gravity to help you, take out your opponent. But that one moment, though, gave me those thoughts back all the way back to the Michael Keaton movie, Batman.
It made me remember my caddying days. I used to caddy for a gentleman who was a World War II flying ace. And he loved telling stories about some of their runs where they would just get to a spot, flip that thing upside down, and then just nosedive to get right to their target spot, bomb, and take off. And it was really neat just to know that there's moves out there that even the Mandalorian's picking up from those flying aces.
Nice. What do you think's going on? Like, let's rewind a little bit because we could probably talk about the dogfight all night. Yeah. But before that, there's some really significant conversation in the cave under the mines of Mandalore at the Living Waters. When Din wakes up, and Bo-Katan wants to know what'd you see down there? What do you think is going on in Bo-Katan's head?
I mean, do you want me to get to my little on the? Well, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I started off thinking more about Bo-Katan with this, but then with today's gospel reading, I read the my little Ignatian Study Bible. And it really tied in well with the story of the living waters, because in the story, of Jesus healing the blind man, it said, first off, why is he blind? And, back then they thought he was a sinner or something like that, so he needed redeeming. And the Pharisees did. And then Jesus says, no, that's not really the case. It's, he has a much bigger purpose than that, so that God might be made manifest in him. But so Jesus, spits in the dirt, puts the mud on his eyes and says, go to the spittle and puts it in, and he says, go wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. And then the blind man goes there, washes, and when he comes back, he sees. And what I liked was the note that's in the study Bible here says, the pool of Siloam was a rock-hewn reservoir in the southern district of ancient Jerusalem. The pool was built by King Hezekiah to serve as a water supply for the city. The editorial comment that Siloam means sent suggests that the pool is a symbol of Jesus, the source of living water, and the one sent by the Father. Its contents are symbolic of the Spirit, one who is the living water. One who is the living water poured out by Christ, and the one who is sent by the Father and the Son. And then it goes more into the anticipation of the miracle, anticipates the administration of baptism, and are washed by water, anointed with oil, and enlightened with grace and truth. But when you think about Din needing to be redeemed, he goes to the living waters of Mandalore. When this blind man needs to be redeemed for his blindness, he goes to the living water of Jesus Christ. I mean, he sent him to Siloam, but really Jesus is the living water. And then that made me think then about Bo-Katan, whereas the blind man automatically saw, that Jesus was the way, I guess. And then she's, as she's watching Din Djarin go through his process, I think she's beginning to be less blind of that. There is something more to the creed. It's not just, ritual and, myths. There's something more to it. And I think that's why when she's doing the double take at the mythosaur, it's like, wait a second, maybe this isn't just stories. and that's where, I mean, she's not at all like the blind, or at the point of the blind man. Like, I completely agree with, the children of the watch, but I think she's a little more open to the traditional ways now that are the Orthodox ways, maybe, that they do, that, she's witnessed what Din Djarin's gone through, as well as then what she saw underwater. And I think she wants to know if he saw that, because, maybe she's thinking, maybe that was just my imagination taking off. And
maybe, yeah. That whole idea of, who is the one who sees more clearly? Is it the skeptic who questions everything and who discounts what can't be proven, like Bo-Katan did? Or is it the one who has almost a blind faith, like Din Djarin? And I think it's fascinating to see. This whole season has been rife with baptismal imagery, right? This just takes it that step further.
I noticed, now that you're mentioning that, John, I noticed a relation to what our priest was saying in our sermon this morning. He was saying that the blind man went through stages in his faith as he's coming to realize what's happening. He first sees Jesus as a man, and then he's being questioned, and he calls him a prophet. And then a little bit later, he finally realizes that he's the Messiah. He's the Christ. And now I'm seeing, now that you mentioned this, none of this clicked until you said that. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. That Bo-Katan's going through the same thing. I think from the minute they got into the mines of Mandalore and they got to the living waters and she was reading that plaque, she was real sarcastic and skeptical. And then she saw how Din was treating it, how serious he was treating it. And you could just see it in her face. Maybe there's something to this. And then she goes and rescues him. And she sees the mythosaur, so she's starting to believe a little more. And then, even though she's still wearing her helmet, it was some serious good physical acting when she's in the covert. And to me, it looked like acceptance. For the first time in a long time, she's being accepted by another group of people. Whereas she's been, how long has she been sitting in that throne room by herself, with all of her people leaving her? And now people that look like her, because they're all wearing the same helmets. I mean, they're all a little bit different, right? But they're all Mandalorian helmets. They all, air quotes, look like her, and she's being accepted by them. So I can see the similarity to the blind man there as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I really like that. One thing I saw in Bo-Katan, when she stopped and didn't say to Din what she saw, was something we had heard recently from a guest priest giving a talk. And he was talking about discernment, and especially in relationship to revelation and private revelation. And he talked about having to discern with understanding. So you need to make sure that, like, you get a private revelation. You just don't go blabbing it to everyone. You need to go talk to someone like a priest, a spiritual director with some authority, to let you know, did you really see what you saw? Is this what it's supposed to mean? Is this what I'm supposed to do about it? Get some direction on it. And then it also reminded me of Teresa of Avila talked about when you had a revelation and understanding like that if you just go blabbing it to everyone, it's like you're baking bread and you open the oven too soon and you lose some of that heat. And it's like you gotta stop and hold it in and discern. And then having her keep her helmet on, it's like she's, habited, just trying to figure this out and see what happens. I have to say one thing though, when I saw Bo with the cohort, it brought up a high school memory for me of my high school boyfriend at the time. Thought it was very important for me as a Catholic to go to his Baptist youth group with him. which I thought, okay. My mom's like, yeah, go ahead, go see what that's all about. When I showed up there, I literally had a group of kids around me, just like Bo-Katan did, that were all so happy that they were saving a Catholic girl. Of course, the rest of the evening turned out interesting as every time they told me, well, in the Bible, which you guys don't read, I'm like, I read the Bible every day. Well, and I was just like, they started going, wait a minute, you know some of the stuff we know? I'm like, yeah, thank you for, wanting to pray with me and everything. That's very nice, but I'm good.
But how many people aren't and could have been taken away from that so fast?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Bo-Katan's journey is going to be really interesting from here on. I mean, she was an interesting character before, but this episode has really kind of given me a deep hook into her story, and I want to see where she's going. One other thing that popped out at me about what she was doing this episode, I think literally half her lines were, I witnessed it. I saw you. I bear testimony to this. She is saying, I witnessed Din Djarin bathe in the living waters. And it's almost like she's eager to say it, like the tone of her voice and how quickly it comes out. It's like the armor asks, is this true? Did you bathe in the living waters? And Din says, it's true. I have proof. And she like jumps right in. I witnessed him. I was there. Which is
for a cult that she doesn't believe in. Before that, of course.
I feel like there's so much more about the Mandalorian culture that hasn't been fleshed out yet. It's going to be interesting to see how all this works out compared to like all the other images and storylines we've had with Mandalorians.
What I've heard, and I'm forgetting where I heard this, so it may not be entirely accurate. But I heard that Jon Favreau was basing the Mandalorian culture on like the Jewish diaspora. So that there are lots of, there are Mandalorians everywhere, and they've kind of developed different ways of being Mandalorian in the same way that, you've got your conservative Jews and your Orthodox Jews and your Hasidic Jews and your Reformed Jews. And you've got all these different ways of being Jewish. And I think I heard that he had said somewhere in an interview that was kind of a model for, all the different kinds of Mandalorian culture there are out there, which I find really fascinating. But again, it's like, as a Catholic, it's hard not to see all of this very Catholic looking and feeling imagery around the way the culture is being portrayed, which, it's, I don't know, like on the one hand, I want to like delve into the Catholic stuff, Catholic, and on the other hand, I want to like Star Wars geeky stuff, geeky.
Well, I guess as an artist, what I'm missing is the art. I loved the Mandalorian art in the Clone Wars under Bo-Katan's sister. And seeing the interrelationship of signs and symbols, the little elongated hexagon around the rectangle on their chest plate is used all throughout all their art and architecture in the Clone Wars. Windows are shaped like that. Floor tiles are like that. And it's like, there's so much meaning of symbolism and shape. And it's like, I miss the art of the Mandalorian. That's why I love Sabine so much. She was, both a warrior like her mother and an artist like her dad. Or vice versa. I think her dad corrected and said, well, actually, my wife's the artist and I'm the warrior in the politics. But, so it's just kind of, I miss that part of the culture, the beauty of the culture. Right now, it's like, when are we going to beat these swords into plowshares and paintbrushes?
Well, I mean, that's also, I mean, a sense of this is a culture that has lost its homeland. And what, in a sense, I wonder how much we're going to get to see the Mandalorians coming home to Mandalore, and whether that will, have any real world inspiration in, the repatriation of the Jewish people to Israel or not. Mandalore is not currently inhabited by anybody else, so there wouldn't be the displacement of people that there is in that's causing all the struggles in present day in the Levant. But there's a lot going on just culturally there.
I love the effect of the living water on the pool that the armorer uses to cool the metal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, is there a little bit of the Beskar in the water?
That would be my guess. Yeah. Or maybe some kind of like the essence of the mythosaur, or a combination of the two.
It's funny you said I'm sorry, I feel like such a little kid right now. You said essence of the mythosaur. It's like, okay, I've cleaned out fish tanks. I don't need to know what the essence of the mythosaur is.
Yeah. I was looking for a PG way to say it. Yeah. Gosh, yes. I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, there's so much else, like lore related, that I like, where did those TIE fighters come from? And they talked about like an Imperial warlord, it's like, oh, well, you steal one of their warships, they get a little, oh gosh, Bo-Katan had some great, I scugged off a lot of Imperial warlords. Scugged off is a great term. Those mud scuffers bombed my home. Mud scuffers, I love it. It's like, I'm wondering, okay, are these Imperial warlords just exactly as said, or is there some greater connection to what's going on? What do you think?
The first time I watched the episode, the thing that got me with the two storylines was revenge. And it made me think of like The Empire Strikes Back, when, after Star Wars, all Darth Vader wanted was the Millennium Falcon and to get revenge on Han Solo and the person that prevented, that helped destroy the Death Star. And because, I want that ship, through the whole movie, he's trying to find, Han Solo and stuff. And in this one, the first thing you see, after they leave the living waters and they're flying back and they're bombing her castle, that made me think this is revenge on Bo-Katan, was there with Moff Gideon's ship, just like Dr. Pershing helped set him up. And I'm thinking, that's why I was thinking that maybe this is kind of like a way of setting up that either Moff Gideon's coming back, or the people that, similar people like him are, flexing their muscle kind of thing to show that they're out there and, and they mean business and stuff by going after. So that, that was kind of because like I said, the first thing was a revenge bombing was my thought. And then revenge on Dr. Pershing later on just seemed to tie the two together. And then that made me wonder, especially when you see, what was it? The trailers coming into the season, and one of those guys for the Rebels says, well, no, there's still things out there, that you don't know, or, there's something dangerous, that still lurks out there. And that's what I'm thinking is this was kind of like a precursor of what maybe we're going to start seeing is, it's going to maybe take a darker turn with some of the stuff, or that we're going to see more Imperials kind of, or the growing of the First Order, maybe. I don't know.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the first time I saw those TIE interceptors, all I saw, I was like, Thrawn! No. It's like, that's his pet project. That's his thing. And you know what? He wants revenge on the Mandalorians also, because they came to the rescue.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would recognize that as well. So yeah, maybe he did blow it up for that.
Well, because the thing, I mean, I did read The Heir to the Empire and those books years ago with Timothy Zahn, but I've never watched the Clone Wars, Rebels and stuff, so I haven't seen how they've integrated Thrawn into the storyline later on and
You've
stuff.
got homework.
So, I know.
Yeah,
but,
and a real treat.
Right.
It's awesome.
But that's why I was like, at least, because especially when those, when she's, especially when Elia's been on Moff Gideon's ship, and then they said, oh, there's that story that he was escaped, or, they used, it's like, that's why the second time through when they said that, I was like, oh, maybe this is tying it all, a little bit, but like, but it could also be something more like, okay, maybe that was the cover story, but Thrawn's out there, coming after him now too. But I mean, it's just that's
well,
what
and
I
it
saw.
would not surprise me. It would not surprise me, and I've read this. This is not my original theory, but it could be that Gideon was or still is working for Thrawn.
Yep.
So possibilities all around.
And then I just had one question though. The convert. I was, obviously Bo-Katan's the convert, at least you would think she is. But then I thought, well, these people in the amnesty programs are kind of converting from Imperial to, to New Republic or whatever. So it's like, to me, it seemed like it had a double meaning with this as well.
They've been doing that a lot.
Yeah, having titles that refer to or could apply to several characters or situations. Yeah. What other aspects of the show do you think tied these two halves or these two storylines together? I mean, I already said I think they kind of work as like mirror images or opposites of each other. One is about looking for belonging and not finding it, and the other is about finding belonging where you don't expect it, in a way. They're both kind of about redemption, about overcoming past, what you've done in the past.
Yeah, just the way they welcome Bo-Katan into the group of the Watch.
Yeah.
Especially knowing a lot of them didn't care much for her.
Yeah. Paz Vizsla there. Who are you, Night Owl? It's like, oh yeah, he knows who she is. He knows exactly who she is.
Just give her a little jab there. Because wasn't it one of his kin that she watched get their head chopped off by Darth Maul?
Believe so, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same voice actor too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jon Favreau is the voice actor of Pre Vizsla and Paz Vizsla. But in this last episode, they did credit the guy that's in the suit with as the voice actor this time. But generally it's been, up until now, it's always been Jon Favreau.
Okay, there was one really good funny in this episode, though. I mean, the best line was when poor Doc Pershing is getting ready to have his brain scrambled, and
I knew you were going to bring
right
this
up. Calamari says, "It's a trap."
And he says it to the Mon Calamari.
Oh, that was the best ever.
Oh, maybe it's just me. I hate that kind of thing. It's like you are no longer involved in the story. You're just making a meme, and it's like, no.
Oh, but that's such
I just want to be. I want to be inside the story, and it just kicks me out.
At that point in time, I needed a break. I was getting exhausted from the whole thing. I was like, oh, okay, I needed that.
All right. Well, any final thoughts? We've gone a little long on this episode, but there was a lot to talk about, I think. Any final thoughts on either part of it, or on the episode as a whole?
Oh, one thing I forgot about was it's not my, no, I didn't catch it, but I was watching another YouTube, and they pointed out that every time Din is about to be attacked or wherever Grogu's at, Grogu starts babbling. So it's like his force sensitivity is, hey, something's happening. And that happened right before the TIE fighter started shooting at him.
He's developed a little spidey sense, has he?
And
So I
how
thought that
cute
was
when he
interesting.
tried to say, "This is the way."
Yes. Yes. Oh, man. We might get some discernible words out of him by the end of the season.
I'm just wondering what new holidays we're going to be introduced to in the next episode. Every week, every time there's a, what was it? The Bendu Days, Bunta Eve, and then I don't know what Tongs Day is or whatever that was. And
I kind of took that as being like, Thursdays, am I right?
Okay.
but it could be a significant holiday.
Yeah. I don't know. But it's like every time there seems to be something new that they keep trying to work into these episodes.
It's it is it is a big galaxy far, far away, and they keep kind of, as much as they like keep tying things back together, they always try to add something new, and that's cool. All right, well, with that, I think it's time to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Secrets of Star Wars. And this week we would like to mention especially Antonio A., Kathleen D., Emily C., Ben and Susie S., Brian T. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or check us out on the SQPN YouTube channel. You can find previous episodes of Secrets of Star Wars, and you can send us feedback at sqpn.com/Star Wars or via email at starwars@sqpn.com. You can also follow StarQuest on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or Twitter at SQPN, or join our very active Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. So next time we'll be back and continue discussing Season 3 of The Mandalorian. So we're looking forward to seeing you. Till then, John, thank you for joining us in sharing the Secrets of Star Wars.
Thank you.
Jason, it's always great to have you on.
I enjoyed it, guys. Thanks.
And Kathryn, it's a pleasure as always.
Thank you. This was fun.
Once again, I have been Robert King. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy. Let's Science. Find the show wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/science.